Hello, this is Dr. Jeff Craig, Superintendent of the West Aurora Schools, and welcome to episode number 29. Today we're joined by two West Aurora High School social studies teachers, Mr. Kevin Briars, who is in his 12th year of teaching, and Mr. Will Marks, who is in the home stretch of his very first year in the classroom. Kevin and Will, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Craig. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the conversation. Before we jump into some questions, I want to give a little bit of background of why we have this combination today. So in our contractual bargaining agreement, the contract with the AEAW, which is our local teachers union, both of our parties agreed to a mandatory 2-year mentor induction program. And that's whether you're, in your 4th year or if you're in your very first year. If you're new to our district, we want to provide those supports. So want to make sure that we have a good conversation about this in case people have not figured it out. You guys are a mentor-mentee combination. Mm-hmm. And so we want to get your perspectives on those experiences. So I'm going to defer to Kevin first, since you got props with being a veteran. Mm-hmm. Talk to us a little bit about not so much the mentorship, but what was a tipping point to encourage you to go into education?
It started back in my high school years. I played basketball and soccer in high school, and I became very close with those coaches. And it just helped kind of connect me to the school, and I felt like I always wanted to be there. Went to college, going into education, still considering other coaching options, maybe college, maybe club, things like that. But I decided school and teaching would probably be the best for me. Wanted to be around kids on a daily basis and be able to help them in a variety of different ways. So it was coaching that kind of got me interested and involved, but then from there I took it all the way into teaching.
Absolutely. So I'm going to nudge you one more step, and it doesn't have to be an absolute, but was there a particular individual that maybe kind of piqued your interest or made you kind of consider this is a path for me?
I would say there were probably 2, maybe even 3 from my high school years. Mike Healy was very influential. He was a basketball coach, very detail-oriented, but also found his ways and his time to make connections with the players. Yeah. And then Guy Calipari, who I played with for 4 years as my soccer coach. Again, he coached my whole family, so he became very close with Briars group in general. So I think being around those 2 as much as I was, and then you could add Coach Stellwagen in there as well, who I had in class for history. That kind of got me interested towards the history aspect side of things, not just the teaching and the coaching like the others did, but he kind of grew my interest level in history and social sciences, and being able to kind of look at the past in a different way and asking more questions and being more invested and involved and seeing why it was important to kind of understand some of those concepts and information.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's amazing. And just as a reminder to all of us, every single day we have an impact on kids, and think back how many years now that those influences are still bearing fruit today. Well, what drew your attention to get into the education world?
Yeah, I feel like my route was a little bit different. Just having started off as a business major in college, I didn't get into teaching right away. I was planning on going to U of I, planning on doing U of I business there, and then I ended up switching last minute over to ISU. And that ended up working out, obviously switching over to be an education major because ISU is a great university for education. But as I was going through my business classes and kind of taking those Business 100 courses and stuff, I found myself not really loving that profession that much. Yeah. And I kind of got to a crossroads in my life where I was like, do I want to, maybe go ahead and make all this money in the business world and be unhappy every day? Or do I want to go in and do something that I feel like will be of value to myself and to others and make me happy every single day? And after doing a little bit of reflecting on that and talking to my parents and obviously my friends and my peer group around me, I realized that a lot of my heroes growing up were my teachers, whether it was social studies teachers, whether it was my 6th grade history teacher teaching me how to tie a tie before one of our away volleyball games, just stuff like that. I came to realize how important those people were in my life and developing me as a human being. And then so my sophomore year, it was kind of a hard transition that year because that was kind of when we were getting into COVID and stuff too. But I ended up switching into the teaching history, social science ed program. And again, I'm happy I switched over. kind of never looked back, and it was been a great experience. I had a good teaching experience last year at Joliet West for student teaching, and then coming here with the induction program and everything that we got going on here, like we're talking about today with the mentor program. It's been super, super easy to find happiness in this career. And even after like the long days and like the hard days after a long game of volleyball, get home at 9:30 p.m., like I still find myself happy to be doing it. So I think that's what's like most important about it is if I'm happy when I go home at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it was a good or a bad day, I get like satisfaction from being here and working with the kids every day. So it's been great.
I tell you what, I wish I was as reflective back when I was your age as you are today. It's just, that's incredible that you have that clarity to be able to see the big picture and have that perspective. So thanks for sharing those thoughts. That's awesome. Kevin, if I can come back to you, one of the things that this is kind of like it always takes two to do this tango. And without our experienced teachers stepping up and being willing to be a mentor, in addition to all the other responsibilities you have, this doesn't happen. It doesn't come off, and it doesn't happen by accident. So when you were approached to say, hey, we need you to take on this 2-year commitment, what was kind of the nudge that said, absolutely?
Yeah, I think there were actually 2 things that kind of influenced my decision to take this position. The first, I would say, the people that I had helping me when I first started. I remember looking back to my first year or 2 of teaching and just how many questions you have, little things too, right? Like databases on the Schoology page or grade book systems, right? And those types of questions, having somebody to go to as quickly as having a mentor, it was really, really helpful. So Ryan Sladek was my mentor my first 2 years, and he was just really helpful in helping me get acclimated to the teaching profession and largely the school, right? Becoming a part of the school community and everything that went into that. So that was the first part of it. And then the other part is more general, but just the importance getting our younger teachers up to speed. They have a lot of questions coming in just like I did, and being able to help them find the way that is going to bring them happiness, but also help the students in the long run too. In the classroom, getting acclimated to the school. So I think it's kind of both of those aspects that really drove my decision. The people that helped me when I first started,
Absolutely.
As well as being able to help the school community by helping teachers get better and helping them make more connections with kids. Because we're all in this together, and people helping people helps the kids.
So now you've seen both sides of the coin. What's been your takeaway from this experience now that you're on the mentor side rather than the mentee side?
I would say I'm going to take it a little bit of a different route. The changes that have happened, a lot of it is the communication, right? That's largely the most important piece of the relationship between the mentor and the mentee. And it's turned a lot more digital, technical, right? Texting. So some of the first times we met or through text, and just the difference of, back in the day, whether it was email or calling or meeting, getting used to, as a mentor now in this day and age, texting on a consistent basis. Yeah. And even if that's how things go today, right? Hey, I know you were doing this lesson. How did it turn out? So being able to check in. So that's been really helpful, but also a slight learning curve of getting used to that line of communication. So I think that's been a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but technology has transitioned quite a bit. Even in the last 2.5 years during COVID, we found different applications, that's for sure. Well, I'm going to turn to you a little bit. Even looking in the really way back machine, when I was coming into the profession as a new teacher, there's lots of things to learn and to take in. Lots of tasks and information that you need to be aware of. And then in addition to say, okay, you're being assigned a mentor, you have some expectations, meetings you have to attend, things when you could be coaching, you could be doing grading your papers, entering grades in the grade book, all of that. What was your reaction when they said, here's what this looks like. You're going to be getting this mentor for 2 years. Here's the regime that you need to follow in terms of meetings, expectations, follow-ups. What was your response and reaction to that?
I thought for me at least, I think it's a little bit different, like I mentioned before, like going through a large part of clinical experiences and stuff through COVID where a lot of it was virtual. I think having that person in the school that's there for you as well as the cohort that can work together, I think having that community pre-built in before you even get here has helped me out a lot. And obviously I have Kevin's my mentor and he's great. And he also introduced me around the building to other mentors that I now have. So it's just a really, really easy in, especially, I mean, I'm sure every department's the same, but within the social studies like department specifically, like I've gotten to know so many more people right away rather than having to kind of like wait around, don't want to step on anybody's toes because I'm a new teacher. Having that mentor in there like, hey, this is my new teacher I'm working with, and introducing you around it offers me a lot of opportunities to get to know a lot of people very, very quickly within the school. And I found that to be super, super helpful. And then obviously in addition to the cohort as well, the people that are in those cohorts, we're all in the same boat. And so it can be daunting coming to like obviously first year teaching at a big high school like this, but it's good to know that there's other people in the same boat as you. And obviously like working with them in community and having those meetings in the mornings, having donuts together, whether it's chatting about whatever. It's always a good time to see and catch up with them to see how they're doing. And then again, just having that mentorship that is available to me on a regular basis for me to get to know others in the building, not just my mentor, has been awesome to have.
So I'm going to stay with that theme a little bit with you. You know, Laura Beatis she coordinates all of this with our many, many staff members, and she refers to this mentee-mentor relationship as an arranged marriage. Mm-hmm. But you talked a little bit about how you were introduced to different people. So how did you work the relationship with your mentor, Brian? Mm-hmm. And then how did those relationships, as you became more comfortable and confident, within your department and then outside your department amongst the whole staff?
Yeah. So I remember the first time I met Kevin Briars, was in the hall actually. We were.
Might have. That's okay.
It's okay. Be another guy in the conversation here. I was with Kevin.
So I get it all over.
But I was walking down by the main gym and I was just getting a tour around the school because it's a huge school. And then our curriculum coordinator just happened to mention like, hey, I think that's your mentor for next year. And I kind of just waved at him and kind of went about our ways because he was coming from soccer camp or soccer practice or something. But then I got to know him, obviously got his phone number. And like he said, we were texting over the summer and eventually got in here and got to work with him a little bit. Obviously the first couple days I think were really nice when we had a bunch of meetings regarding school and just like history and social studies in general. So I got to get like a lot of FaceTime with him in the beginning. And then from there, it's just been constant communication. Like during it, we have our lunch hour off right now together. And I think a lot of the communication and building that relationship between mentor and mentee, at least for us, has been not really so much asking questions about pedagogy all the time or content all the time, but it's always first like asking, okay, how are you doing?
Yep.
Like, how are you doing as a person? Because if you're not loving it and you're not happy every day, you're not going to be there for the kids and providing a good education that they deserve. So I think what we've done to like kind of foster a good relationship between us both is first off, okay, how are you doing today? What can I do for you personally to make your day a little bit better? What's going on with you? Having that bar set and meeting somebody at a personal level, I think obviously has helped our relationship out a lot in terms of just getting to that teaching aspect of it then as well. So obviously like going through college, you learn a lot of things, you take a lot of teaching classes, but you're never going to be prepared for every situation that pops up in the classroom. There's a lot of different fires that kind of pop up here and there. And just having an outlet for that, somebody to talk to, maybe if it was a hard situation that I was dealing with, whether it's at home or whether it's at school, and if that affects how my career is going or how my classroom is run, I have somebody that I can vent to about it and help me get through those hard times too. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, but
I tell you what, I'm amazed at your perspective. And I don't know if, we're going to blame some of this on Kevin, but I mean, geez, you bring just a wealth of almost veteran perspective to it's just what a big picture. And I certainly am impressed. What a really neat perspective. So not Brian, but let's go with Kevin today.
Good call.
I'm curious to your intentionality, your purposefulness in creating that relationship with your mentee, and then what kind of your picture was. Because I know we stripped some things of things that you do in activities, but you put your own spin on this and how you think you would want to grow this individual.
Yeah, I mean. To start, Will has been a really good mentor and we can tell through these past couple questions and his perspective that this was not all me, obviously. Like he came in with a good knowledge base and a good outlook kind of on life and where he was going at. And it is a more experienced outlook. So it's been really easy to work with. And he's done a good job in kind of all walks of the teaching profession. He is very willing to step out of his shell. And so as he's talking about me helping him meet new people, yes, I did that, but he has to continue to take that next step of continuing that relationship. Yes, I can introduce them, but he's doing most of that work, and being able to cultivate those relationships happens because of his willingness to open himself up and create relationships with people. So that's made it much easier on me. From the get-go, I was very much wanting to get to know him on a personal level, as he mentioned. And that was one thing I wanted to focus on going through the year is, yes, we need to make sure that we have all the teaching aspects ready to go. But a lot of that is done by a lot of different help around the building. Sure. So I remember the first time I met him, I sat down and I said, hey, you want to set up your Schoology gradebook? I already got that done during our first couple of days. You want to set this up? I actually got most of that set up already too. I'm like, you're awesome, right? And then it was like, okay, what do we need? What do you need? How can we continue to grow this relationship? Whether it's going out to lunch, and I remember, again, multiple people in the social studies department. Your first year, they are ready and willing to take you to lunch. People that are more experienced, that have kind of that foundational base, are able to help. And so just finding my ways in those aspects to create that personal relationship, whether it's going out to eat real quickly after school or during lunch or whatever it might be, just finding those avenues.
I'm gonna pivot a little bit. Am I correct that both of you coach this year?
Yes.
How many years, Kevin, have you coached?
So I actually student taught here as well, and I was volunteer coaching that year, but I have coached every year since I started teaching here as well. So this is my 12th year of coaching as well as teaching.
So here's my question. There's the teaching aspect, there's the classroom piece, but there's also then now taking on the role of coaching kids outside the classroom. A little different approach. I was a student athlete for many, many years. There's some similarities, but then there are some differences. So my question is, from the mentee-mentor relationship, did that move into the extracurricular, the athletic coaching realm as well?
Yeah. So one of the initial things I did, Will kind of asked me, he's like, are there any ways, because he wasn't set up as a coach right away at the beginning of the year. So he asked me, are there any ways to get more involved with athletics? Because he played volleyball in high school and played club in college and possibly wanted to get more involved. So I started with going to Demetris, our assistant athletic director, and saying, hey, are there any working opportunities, working clock for basketball, working scores for wrestling, right? Whatever it might be, just to kind of get his foot in the door, introduce himself to some of those people. And then from there, he was able to make relationships with some of the volleyball program, getting to know the head coach Tolis, and then from there, he's slowly been getting help from Andrew Plata has been a very helpful mentor for you in the coaching side of things as well. So I think part of it was helping him to get his foot in the door. And then from there, just continuing to answer questions as they come up, right? As you go into spring break, hey, what does the schedule look like for these kids? What are parents expecting during these times? And those are all important to manage kind of a roster of kids that come from a variety of different backgrounds. And so just navigating those types of situations as they come up.
Great. I appreciate you sharing that. Well, I'm gonna do a two-piecer here, but react a little bit if you would. So you moved into the quote-unquote the adult realm of this. And how did that experience thus far, how has that been different than the movie in your head when you were the student? You know, when you're going, geez, I didn't even think about that when I was coaching or teaching. You know, you were in the classroom as a kid and you played school. And now you're on the other end of that and you go, I wonder if that kid's thinking the same way I did when I was in school.
Exactly. And I think it's funny just to bring that up this week is yesterday I had a situation that came up that I'll talk about in a second. But I think what changed the most for me, like coming into like obviously adulthood and teaching, is like it's not always perfect. Like you thought your teacher had everything down, like they knew exactly everything. Like I teach world history. I don't know the entirety of world history. I try my best to learn it because obviously that's what I'm teaching. That's what I love to do. But I can't possibly know every list of facts like off the top of my head for everything that's ever happened. And so I think like kind of shying away from that perfectionist part of that, I think that's helped me become a better teacher. But to your point, like it's not perfect every day. Even on Monday, I planned this like great lesson. We were going to have a discussion related to these videos on World War II veterans. It was going to be great. And then I get in and then none of the videos worked. And the kids couldn't access them. I was like, okay, what do we got to do? I was trying to figure it out as we go. And then like we ended up working together and kind of figuring out the lesson for first hour and got a good lesson to them. But it's not perfect every day. And I think I expected myself, and I thought the teachers, like in the past, would always come in and it had to be perfect every single day. But I think talking with my students, they know I'm not perfect, and I appreciate that because they can look past my flaws. Because being a first-year teacher is hard, and I don't expect to be the teacher I'm going to be in 10 years. But I think like learning to go through those like struggles and those little small bumps has helped me a lot. And just talking to my students, like, hey, that lesson wasn't very good today. I want to try it again tomorrow. And so like being willing to accept that, I think has been something that I didn't think was a part of the profession. I thought it was like you had to be on every single day. And obviously you try to, and that's your goal, and that's what teaching is. But I think it's okay to struggle every now and then just to learn a little bit more as you go throughout your first year. So I thought that was important, and I didn't think that was a part of the profession when I thought of it as a student, but now it's a big part of it for me and just learning from my mistakes in the past.
I think kids probably don't see the fallibility. That sometimes we're supposed to have that mechanical, robotic approach to everything, and the human frailty is alive and well. Especially, we're in the education business, but we are in the people business as well. So I appreciate you sharing your perspective based on the wisdom that you've gleaned from Kevin thus far. Collectively, if you were to look back on, I don't know, was it August 17th?
So yeah, August 17th, 13th.
What would you tell your August 17th self that you now know about the way of the world?
I think about if I'm thinking about it from a teaching perspective, kind of going back to what I was saying about not being perfect, I think a big part of it is being okay to ask questions. Obviously, being surrounded by such an elite group that the social studies department is, it's sometimes hard to be like, I don't know this, or I need help with this because everybody's done it for a while, or they're an expert in their field, or whatever it may be, and you don't want to feel like, okay, maybe I'm not up to their par. But then I feel like as I got to know the department, it was easier and easier to ask questions when I needed help. Having interventionists there, having people during my off hour to ask questions and bounce ideas off of has been really, really important to me. So I think just the ability to be vulnerable and ask those questions to people that have the answers for you, if you're willing to ask, has been really, really important to me. And that's something I wish I would have known right away. But it was super easy to fall in that groove, obviously being around the social studies department all the time, because they're just a great group of people, and I know they're there for me, and they wouldn't judge me if I didn't know something, because I'm obviously just looking to get better, and that's what we're all here to do at the end of the day.
What a great takeaway. So, Kevin, I'm going to give you an opportunity. This is a little longer look back. So back in 2011, what would you tell the 2011 version of Kevin Briars?
It's a good question. I kind of take it similar to what Will was talking about with that last question. The one before that, actually, was talking about kind of not stressing about the little things. When you come into teaching, I remember my first day, I thought I lost. We used to give finals on the first day, so we could compare how they did on the first day and how they did at the end of the semester.
Sure.
And we used that as a data point. And I remember thinking I lost one of those finals on my very first day, and thinking it was the end of the world, and thinking that was the end of my teaching career, and no way am I going to get out of this. And you do, right? And being willing to be open about that is very important to us being able to be comfortable coming here every day, and comfortable getting in front of the kids and having fun with what we're doing, right? Enjoying what we're doing. So I would very much agree with what Will was saying, and not stressing on some of those little things. And the more you're open with the kids, because they'll call you if you're not open with them. They notice that stuff, and you can't get that sort of stuff past them. So being open with them, I think, is the best way to go. It's the best route to go. It helps you create relationships with the kids, but it also allows them to see, I think you mentioned fallibility, it allows them to see that, and knowing that, hey, this isn't a perfect person, but look at all the good things that they are doing. Look at the positive way that they're impacting the room and these students, and how much time and care that they truly are putting into the students. They will see that, and they will notice that. So focusing on those things and not yourself, right? Some of that is just getting out of your own shell, and being willing, and always willing to think about the kids first.
That's great advice. Kevin, I'm going to stick with you for a little bit as we get close to our wrap-up here. You've heard me speak publicly, and I, in fact, just as recently as Saturday night at our Hall of Honor event, talked about elevating the conversation around public education. I'm a strong proponent and very passionate proponent of public education. If you could give an insight to our listeners, where do you think the world of public education is right now, from your perspective in this environment?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of different perspectives on the teaching profession right now, public education. And I think it's very important to have an educated populace, right? To be willing to invest in the kids, to be willing to invest in that next generation, and being able to, again, put the students first. And it's hard sometimes hearing some of the negative reactions to teachers these days in the public realm. But I do think teachers have a sense of, we're here for the kids. So there's part of me that's able to brush some of that information off, or when you're hearing it. But overall, I think in the long run, we want to just continue to make sure that we're investing in the kids, investing in their educations moving forward, and putting as much time and effort as we can into creating an educated populace that a democracy is reliant on. Democracies need educated individuals who are invested in politics or what is happening in the world. And so being able to help them recognize that, it still makes a lot of, makes me happy in a way. Being able to brush off some of the negativity as much as possible, and then making sure that we're investing in the kids.
Absolutely. And I did sense just a little bit of your social studies background creep into that response. Well done. Well said. So, Will, I'm going to give you an opportunity if you could respond. What is your perspective on the state of public education as you know it today?
I think just thinking about, obviously, just me coming out of high school, what is that, 4.5 years ago now? So
sure, now it make me feel like really old.
But it hasn't been too long, but I think a lot of the goals have stayed the same, right? And so when we're talking about how school looks now, obviously we went through COVID when we had Zoom and we had half virtual, half hybrid, all that stuff, and the format of school has changed. I think I agree, and the bottom line is that with what Briars just said, that at the bottom line, we're here for kids, and that's what we sign up for this profession for. We're not signing up for this profession to be famous. We're not signing up for any other reason. We're here for the kids. And so I think as long as the population and like the public as a whole understands that, I think there'll be a little bit more understanding of just teachers as a whole. And like I said, things change. That's just the way of the world, and that's important to move forward. But just knowing that and having at like the end of the day that our students are the main reason we're here, and our goal is to get them to be successful people and humans in the future, and respectful humans and caring for others. All of those things that we are trying to teach through our content here is important for the future. So I think for me, first year teacher, I don't know any better. I think the future's bright. But I think I'm very happy with the profession I chose. I have a lot of faith in it. And I'm happy to be here. Just being around the communities that are within West, I think has made me see that in a more positive light than maybe people would see in the public. But I think like the best thing I heard in our like mentor program was like, our West is best, or you don't know till you know. And I think that rings very true. And I think maybe that's why I have such a good perspective on the education program, is because I'm here with these people and with you guys here today. And then maybe that's why I got a bright outlook on the education career, because I think it's an awesome field and I think everybody should get into it.
That's outstanding. Well, I appreciate the optimism because we need more of that energy, that positive. And so I appreciate what both of you guys bring to the table, not only for education, but here at West Aurora High School and in our West Aurora School District. It bodes well for our students in our community. So I want to thank Kevin Briars. Appreciate you being here. Will Marks, thank you for your conversation, for your insights, and your commitment to education and to our kids. Really appreciate you guys being here and having the discussion.
Thank you for having us, Dr. Craig. Appreciate it.
Please remember, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, including iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and the TuneIn Radio app. We'll see you next time.